Hello everyone, I'm going to show you today how to do this corner to corner crochet pattern technique, whatever you want to call it. It's not really a pattern per se because it's just showing you how to, it's more a technique than a pattern. I'm also going to be showing you how to change colors partway through as you're going along. We're going to see how to increase, and then we're going to see how to decrease, and then I'm also going to show you how you can go ahead when you're finished and do a border around the outside of your blanket or square, whichever one. I'm actually going to do a whole bunch of these squares, put them together and make a blanket. So anyways, let's get started. I have here my crochet hook, and this is a 4mm crochet hook. So it's a little bit smaller than what most people use. I just like the tight stitch that it does. And I have here some yarn. And what you're going to do is start with your slip knot. See if I can do this here. And then you're going to work on, you're going to start with 6 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now this is the regular technique, the regular way that most people do it, and they start with 6 chains. I personally like it a little bit tighter, and I actually only chain 5. But we'll go ahead and do 6 for now, and then we can look at the difference between the 5 and the 6, and you can decide which one you would like to do. So what you're going to do is you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 chains here. What you're going to do is start a double crochet into the 4th chain from the hook. So you have 1, 2, 3, and number 4. We're going to go right into the top of that chain right there, just one little loop, and we're going to do our double crochet. And for those of you who don't know what a double crochet, you're going to yarn over, you're going to insert your hook where it needs to go, you're going to yarn over and pull up a loop. So now you have 1, 2, 3 loops on your hook. You're going to yarn over and pull through 2 of those loops. Then you're going to yarn over and pull through the last 2, leaving 1 loop on your hook. So you're going to do that again. We've done 1, 2, and 3 right here. This is our 3rd one. Double crochet. So now you have this tiny little piece here. And what you're going to do is crochet, you're going to chain another 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Sorry, I got to put a little bit more yarn here. Okay, same thing again. 1, 2, 3, 4, crochet into the 4th chain from your hook. And that's a double crochet. This whole pattern uses double crochets, or this whole technique, stitch, whatever you want to call it, uses double crochets and chains, and then a few slip stitches when you're decreasing. So we have 1, this is number 2, and number 3 right here. Now, so you have these 2 right here. What you're going to do is take this first one and you're going to flip it up like this. So you're looking at the back side, okay? And you're going to find that chain 3 space, the space between your double crochets and then your chain 3. And you're going to slip stitch into that chain 3 space, okay? One thing to keep in mind through this whole, the entire time you're doing corner to corner, you don't actually work into the tops of your double crochets. You solely work into your chain 3 spaces. So now you're going to chain up 1, 2, 3, and you're gonna put 3 double crochet in that same spot right there, that space. So you're gonna wrap your double crochets around that chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and now you can see we've got our first row, and this would be our second row, and then we're gonna start our third row, and they're gonna fill in this gap here. We're gonna have one here, and another one here at the end. So just like starting this row here, we're gonna chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the same thing again. Count down 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to double crochet into the 4th chain from your hook. And you're going to work into the remaining 3 chains. So you'll have each section, each little square, each little part, whatever you want to call it, you're going to have your 4 chains, then 1, 2, 3 double crochets. Now you're going to flip this again. Each time you start a row, you're going to flip it up so that the row that you just did is now to the back. You're looking at the back side. This was the first one and this is the front side. You're now looking at the back side of the second row, and you're going to find that space there between your double crochets and your chain 3s and slip stitch into that spot right there. Now you're going to chain up 3, 1, 2, 3, and you're going to put your 3 double crochets right in that spot. 1, 2, and 3. Then again, find your space here. This is your chain 3. So you're gonna find that space right there. You don't need to put it up here in the top because that's actually the top of that double crochet. You don't need to put it into the chain, you just need to put it into that space. Slip stitch again, and then we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to put our 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And that finishes, every time you get to the edge here, that finishes that row. And each row is going to increase in number of little, I like to call them little squares because they kind of look like little squares, but each little section is going to increase. As you can see, we've got 1, then 2, then 3. We're increasing, so it's going to continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And what you can do is every time you're getting bigger and bigger, what you do is you measure from here to the end, and that's your corner. That's one side or the bottom part of your blanket or square, whichever one you're doing. And once this point to this point, basically, and as it gets bigger, it'll go out, gets to the length, size, width, whatever measurement you're looking for, that's when it's time to decrease. That'll be the corner. This would be the corner of your square blanket. And following this pattern, pretty much everything you make is going to turn out like a square, just like my sample here. It's pretty much even squared. So even if I fold it in half, it may be a little bit wonky just because it stretches differently, but it's pretty much even and it's pretty much square. So I think what we're going to do now is let's do one more row, and then we will look at possibly switching colors, changing colors. So we're chaining up 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then again, 1, 2, 3, 4 chains from the hook, or if you prefer, count the chains from down here, 1, 2, 3, and that's what you're going to go into because you're doing 3 double crochets. So we're doing double crochet, and once again, double crochet is yarn over. You now have 2 loops on your hook. You insert your hook where it needs to go, then you yarn over and pull up another loop. You have 1, 2, 3 loops. You yarn over and pull through only 2, which leaves 2, yarn over and pull through the last 2. That is your double crochet. Here it is again. Yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a 3rd loop, yarn over, pull through 2 of those, yarn over, and pull through the last 2. Okay, once again, once we get here, some people like to turn it this way. I just simply turn it up this way. Remember, we're turning each time we start a row, kind of like a regular side-to-side blanket. You have to turn each time. This one, you have to turn, but after you've started your first one. So find that space there. We're gonna slip stitch, okay? And then we're gonna chain up 3, 1, 2, 3. And then 3 double crochets into that same space. 2 and 3. Okay? And now we find that same space and we're gonna slip stitch. Now, what I'm actually gonna do is show you a way to change colors right here. Like if you wanted to change colors instead of at the end like I have here, I changed colors at the end. And so I'm going to show you how to do it if it was in the middle of your row. And what you would actually do is put your hook through here, grab your new color of yarn, okay? So let's look at that again. We just finished our double crochet. We insert our hook into the chain 3 space. We're gonna grab our new yarn, okay? And we're gonna finish the slip stitch with our new yarn, okay? And then what I personally like to do is, obviously you're gonna cut this off, and then I would actually tie a little knot here and then crochet these ends into the back of my work right there. So I'm going to show you what we're going to do. So we just finished this slip stitch, bringing in our new color. We're going to chain up 3, 1, 2, 3, and then just continue on as we did before and do our 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And you can see how I am crocheting over top of these ends. I just include them with the chain 3 that I'm crocheting over, and then that way they're kind of hidden, already woven in a little bit. And then you slip stitch and you just pretty much carry on from there with whatever you're doing. Now what you can do is go back here and you pull on that end. It'll tighten that up so it's not quite so much in your face that, oh look, that's where they joined, sort of thing. And the farther along you get, it's not going to really stand out. So we chain up 3, 1, 2, 3, and put in our 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. So there we have it. We've got our color change here, and in the back this is what it's going to look like, or pretty much on the other side we have our color change. And when you get done, what you can do, obviously the the pink one will already be cut. I don't want to cut it right now because I actually want to continue on with the pink. But when this is done, you can weave them back into your work here, and you'll just continue on with that onto the next row, farther and farther and farther. And so row 4, row 1 has 1, row 2 has 2, 3 has 3, 4 has 4. Kind of a way to keep track of which one you're on and how many of these little squares you're supposed to be doing each row. So now what we're going to look at is how to decrease. Okay, so say I'm making a tiny little square with only 4 of these little squares across. So now I need to fill in this part right here. And what you're going to do is when you finish the row that you want to be ended on, okay, what you're going to do, we just finished this, you're going to turn it. You're not going to chain up, because the chaining increases, adds another square. And we're not going to add another square. We want it to come straight out across here. We want to put our square here instead of up here on top. So what we're going to do is turn, and we're going to slip stitch into each one into the top of these single crochets. Now some people would say do a chain 1 and then turn. I don't find that it's always necessary, but it might be easier getting into that first single crochet if you have a chain 1 there. It doesn't really add too much on the ends. But we're going to slip stitch into the top of these double crochets right here. That's 2, and here's 3. And then we're going to slip stitch into that chain space. So just as before, we're going to find our chain space, slip stitch into there, and this is where we start our next little square here. This is our next row. We chain up 1, 2, 3, and we put in our 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3 right here. Okay, and then just like before, we find our space here between the chains and our double crochet, and we slip stitch, which then connects that little square with our other squares. And we chain up 1, 2, 3, and then 3 double crochets into that same space. 1, 2, and 3. Then once again, find our space here between the double crochets and the chains, slip stitch, and chain up 3. 1, 2, 3. Then we put in 1, 2, and 3 double crochet right here. Then at this end, we find, here's our chains, and we're going to find our space and slip stitch. Now, this is the other corner, so we're not going to chain up and start a new square. This is where, if you want, you can chain 1. Honestly, I don't chain 1 there. I kind of like it without the chain 1, but you turn your work and you're going to slip stitch into the top of these 3 double crochets. Okay, so you find that little hole right there, that's the top of your double crochet. We're going to slip stitch, which is just yarn over and pull up a loop. So now you have 2, but you take this second loop and just pull it through that first loop. There's no yarning over again. Okay, so into that next little hole right there, yarn over and pull that same loop through the second one. Find that little spot right there and slip stitch, and then once again we're going to slip stitch into that space between the chain 3 and the double crochet. Then we chain up 3, 1, 2, 3, and then we put our 3 double crochets in that same space. 1, 2, and 3. Anybody guess what our next step is? That's right, right here. In this space, we're gonna slip stitch. That connects the top of our little square diddly thing to the rest of the blanket. We chain up 3, 1, 2, 3, and then we add our 3 double crochet in that same spot. 1, then we have 2, and 3. This yarn's giving me fits. A little bit more yarn. Okay. And then now we need to secure this part here to this part with our slip stitch. So find the space and slip stitch. So now we have one corner left to do. We are almost done with this tiny little square. So we're going to turn our work, find the top of our 3 double crochets and slip stitch into the top of the 3 double crochets. And now to slip stitch into that space between the chain 3s and the double crochet. Now chain up 3, 1, 2, 3, and insert 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And now we're going to find that chain space, that space between the chains and the double crochet, and do a slip stitch. And that is your corner to corner little blanket, square, whatever you want to call it. And we've got a color change in there. That's kind of a cool color change. A way to do it. Now something that I kind of like to do is, especially if I'm going to put a border on it, or even if I'm not really, is I like to go ahead and turn and slip stitch into these last 3 double crochets here. It kind of just straightens up that corner a little bit, but also gets you to a corner. So if you're going to add a border to it, you can just start at a corner and then slip stitch into that chain 3 space. Now there's that right there. Now if you wanted to add a border to it, all I would do, especially if, say, I'm just going to use this yarn, I would just continue on from here. I wouldn't even yarn over or fasten off. I would just continue with that color right there, and just go ahead and start with a chain 1. And then I like to always do 1 row all the way around of single crochet. So I would do single crochet, 1, 2. I personally would do 2 single crochet over the chains, and then I would do 1 single crochet into the top of all of your double crochets. So 1, 2, 3 double crochets, then 1, 2. Some people might say do 3 there because it is a chain 3. I guess we can, that's enough space there. And then because you slip stitch here, it might be a little bit difficult to get your hook in there. You can either go the top, because that's actually the top of that double crochet right there. So you got 1. What you see here is this is your slip stitch. The top of the double crochet is still up there at the top. It's right there. So you have 1 part and then a second part. So I don't know, you decide what you want to mess around with, if you want to dig it in right there, or if you just want to hook it farther down into the double crochet, I feel like you can, especially if this is the same color. I don't think it would look all that bad if you just went a little bit lower. 2 and 3, and then once again we've got this, and I feel like, I don't know, maybe down here, 1, 2, and then 3 right here at the corner. And what I like to do actually at my corners to make them more of a pointed corner, I do a chain 2 and then do another double crochet in that same spot. So I do a single crochet, sorry, not double crochet, single crochet, chain 2, and then a single crochet in that same spot. And to me that kind of just helps define my corner. And since this is a double crochet, we're going to do another one there, and then we'll start. See, these we didn't slip stitch in these, so the tops of your double crochets will be easier to find. So you'll just continue on single crochet in the top of those. My yarn is tangled up, so I am going to be working on that. Okay. Anyways, back along here. The rule of thumb that I go by is with each double crochet, if you're going along the side, just put 2 in each double crochet. You do 2 single crochet for each double crochet. That's just kind of what I go by, which is probably why my first thought was to only do 2 in the chain space. So we're back at the corner here. We've got single crochet, then chain 2, and then single crochet in that same spot again. And I'm just gonna crochet over top of this tail here as I go along. We're gonna do 1, 2, and now we're working into the bottom of these. This is a chain up here, so we're gonna put 1 here. Just kind of shove it in there somewhere, and then 1, 2, and 3. These are all in the bottoms of the double crochets here. This is the bottom where the chain was at. Now we're at the side, so we're gonna do 2 here. I personally don't feel like there's a specific amount that you have to do, but just keep an eye out that if it's starting to spread your crochet out a little too much, then you're doing too many single crochets in there. But as long as it's still sort of keeping its shape, then I think you're pretty good. So we're going to continue on here with single crochets. Almost to this next corner here. Okay, we have arrived at the corner. So we're going to chain 2. And another single crochet there. And this is our chain, so I'm actually going to shove 2 in here, right here. And then we're going here. We're back to slip stitches in our double crochet. So that's where it's going to get a little more difficult again to find the right spot to get that in there. And honestly, I kind of like the idea of just going up over the top of that slip stitch and finding the very top of that double crochet. Let's do that again. So this is our slip stitch, and it kind of pushes the top of the double crochet to the back. So I just work into that. And this, find a spot here. Oh, that's our chain. Huh. So we'll just go in that chain space right there. 1, 2. And we're back to messing with the yarn. Okay, almost done here. But you can see that just working your way around once you get to the slip stitch spots, it's a little bit more difficult to find a good spot to put in your single crochet row. So you just got to work with it, and whatever you really feel like is what you want to mess with, just go ahead and do that. And then once you get your first row of single crochet done, what you can do is pretty much any pattern after that you want to do. Well, I don't know where I'm going to put this last one, because I feel like that's where I'm just going to put it right here, and we're going to slip stitch into here. Oh, you know what? I need to do my double my double chain. That's what I'm missing. And that finishes my corner. There we go. So that is the corner to corner. Pretty much pretty simple, I feel like. It is pretty loose. You see a lot of holes here. It's not super tight. And obviously if you use a bigger hook, see this is only a 4mm, most of these yarns call for a 5mm or bigger if you're using thicker yarn. But you can see the holes through here. It's not too bad, but I don't know, depending on your preference. This is with the, starting out with a chain 6, and then you chain up 3. And then this is the exact same yarn, the exact same hook, but I just chained 5. I started out with a chain 5, and then between each one I chained 2. And as you can see, it doesn't have the holes. It doesn't have the gaps. And that's just my reasoning for that, is I like the tighter fill. I feel like if I make a baby blanket, babies aren't going to lose their toes in here. There's a little bit of a gap if you pull on it enough, but overall, it's not the same looseness. This is definitely more loose. This is a little bit more, it's tighter for sure. So anyways, there's that. If you guys have any questions, put them down in the comments, and I will be able to get back with you, answer those. If you guys would like to see more crochet videos, more tutorials, different ideas, let me know in the comments, and I will get those posted for you. Thank you. Have a great day.